Hey, book babes, you're listening to Naughty Narratives, your weekly dose of hot takes, plot twists, and unfiltered book talk with your favorite romance obsessed besties, Maddie and Kyla.
Hello.
Hey!
So good to be on.
So excited to be back for this episode. We have a lot to
I
talk
know,
about.
episode 3. Can you believe it?
Honestly, no, but I'm super excited about it. It
Same,
was.
same.
All right.
Uh, so for all of our listeners, we busted this book out in a week.
Mhm.
And I think we both liked it. We definitely have some thoughts. So hopefully you all
Yeah.
read Does It Hurt along with us? That is the title of the book, right? Yeah, that's what
Yes,
I've written down
Does It
too.
Hurt by H.D. Carlton. You guys might recognize this. She's the same writer from Haunting Adeline. And it
Yeah.
showed. It definitely it tracked.
So let's talk about that because we touched on it a little bit in our
Mhm.
pre-meeting. But you read both Haunting and Hunted, right? Like
Yes.
Adeline.
Mhm.
I don't know the second one. I know it's Hunted. Is it
It
Hunting
is.
Adeline?
Yeah, the first one is haunting and the second one is
Yeah.
hunting. Yeah. They honestly, I really enjoyed those two books. I also enjoyed Where's Molly and Satan's Affair, the little I don't know if you'd call them standalones, but that she wrote in the middle of those. But I did think that it tracked through this book. It was very clearly written by HD. You know, the sex scenes, the smut, it was intense. And we saw that through both books. So I don't know. I Haunting Adeline was I enjoyed it a lot. It did get kind of to a point where I found it slightly repetitive.
Okay.
Uh, but
See, and that
it
was
was
one that I didn't read because I didn't like Haunting Adeline all that much, just because
right.
it just wasn't for me. And if it's for you, that's great. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
Right. It's definitely an
So
intense one.
yeah,
For anybody who
yeah.
hasn't read it, it's at your discretion, but know that there is a long list of trigger warnings and it is intense.
Right, and we went through the trigger warnings before we started reading this one, before we picked it, and we both decided it was an okay read for us.
Uh-huh.
And I would say even though I'm not a huge fan of CNC,
Mhm.
so consensual non-consent, which there's definitely some of in this book,
Definitely.
um, if not some just straight up rape. But
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
I didn't find it for some reason I didn't find it nearly as bad as in Haunting Adeline, where that one I was like, this is way too much. I'm not into this.
See, and I can understand that because with that one, it's a little more Stockholm syndrome-y. Like she definitely kind of falls in love with her captor, where this one they had an attraction to each other from the start when they met in the bar.
Yeah.
And so we kind of got to see a little bit of a different side of things with that. Yeah.
um. Anyway, there'll be background noise. I definitely think that I agree with you with the Stockholm syndrome thing and the Haunting Adeline. There's a lot more of that Stockholm like relationship versus this one. There's more of an attraction, and maybe that's
Right.
why I liked it more. But
I think that's
um,
why I liked it a little bit more, honestly.
I think I also just liked our main character a little bit more in this one. She seems more like yeah, she has her fair share of trauma, which I think
Right.
most of these book characters have a little bit, but she seems like how I would act if I were in that
Right.
situation. Like I really related to that. I was like, if I were in the same, if I had, been running for my life like she has been
Oh
for her
yeah.
life, I'd probably do a lot of the same shit. Like,
That's how I felt, honestly. I I also really liked Enzo's character though. I would say I was a little nervous at the beginning of the book with the way that she was kind of describing him, just because I thought we were going to get a character that was extremely similar to Zaid. But I feel like she ended up doing a really good job of straying away from that and pulling a new character and he was this broody, sexy man all in his own way, but he did have his flaws.
Right. I definitely agree with that. I was kind of worried about that too. I was like, oh, it's just an Italian Zayd. Oh. But then it wasn't that, so I was happy.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole book takes place in Australia, the land down under, which if you follow me on TikTok, that you guys know that I'm obsessed with Bondi Rescue, so I watch a lot of that stuff. So watching the shark scenes and all of that makes me giggle because I watch a lot of the Australian TV right now, and so I just thought that was funny.
That is funny. I've never heard of that. I hear you talk about it all the time, but I have no idea what it is.
They're lifeguards in Australia on one of the most dangerous beaches
Oh.
in Australia, and you're just watching them work their freaking ridiculously long hours and saving people. They're all super fit, hot Australian men.
That's amazing.
They don't even make the show anymore. It's just all on YouTube, but they constantly are like putting clips together from their old episodes and coming out with new content that way. And yeah, I literally watch it to go to bed almost every night.
That's awesome. I'll have to give it a try. I've never heard of it.
So good. Totally off topic. What was your favorite like scene from the book?
Honestly, I think my favorite scene was probably, and it was not a sex scene. I'm going to preface that. But I think my favorite scene was her going into the cave and finding that safe space for herself and discovering the glowworms. That was really cool. It kind of took me back to the first time that I watched Journey to the Center of the Earth, and they had those bioluminescent birds flying through the sea. So that's kind of what went through my head as she was walking to that opening with the pool. But I think that was my favorite part.
I love that. My favorite scene. I also love that Enzo let her have that. Let me go back to the safe space. I think that he was a character that I honestly wasn't sure if he was gonna let her have that space.
Right.
But then he did, which made me feel a little bit better about him as
Yeah.
far as a love interest goes. I think my favorite scene, let me double check my notes. I have it written down. Was at so I actually have two. They're pretty equal to me. When she gets her first tattoo by Simon, who Simon is by far my favorite character, even though we only see him like
Love
twice.
Simon.
So that scene, and then the when Enzo buys her van back. They haven't even made it home yet.
Yeah.
From the aisle, and her
Senile Susie.
Yes, I was like, I love that. That's such a sweet gesture to do for something so small. Yeah.
Well, and I love that
Definitely
instead of brooding with Simon the way that he could have when he ended up being introduced at the end of the book, he instead like he did brood, but he also sat down and got a tattoo, and like that's not something that I was expecting him to do. I was more expecting him to pull her up by the wrist and be like, "We're going, huh?"
And so to go ahead and get that tattoo it was such a touching moment from him. It makes him seem less broody and angry.
And I really loved, I know that we're kind of jumping to the end now, but I really love that he kind of says it all the way throughout where he mentions that, hey, you stole my name. So, that's a whole thing, but he always implies it as his first name, and then at the end of the book he implies it as his last, and then in the epilogue they get married, and I loved that. So he was
They
just
got that happily.
a little boy that wanted to be loved, inside, and I liked that he was able to be healed.
Yeah, it's same, and same with her almost in a way too, where she got her name, she got Sawyer, and then she took his last name. So I loved that. At first, I thought Enzo's reaction to his identity being stolen was a bit extreme. I was like, dude, calm down. Like,
Yeah.
she hasn't taken that much money from you. She hasn't bankrupted you or anything like that. Chill the fuck out.
Yeah. And I think because my first reaction would have been, okay, she stole this from me. Why do I still have money? Why is this not blown through? Like, I immediately would have been like, okay, this is calculated. She is planning. This isn't just somebody who is out on a bender stealing my money.
Right. No, exactly. That's exactly how I was like. So I was like, he's just, I mean, to be like, I'm going to throttle her. Like, he was dead set on killing her for stealing a couple thousand. Like, she said it was less than $1,000 that she had taken from him. And I was like, I mean, I get it. Like, money's hard. I'm broke AF.
Right.
Like, every penny counts. But, for anybody just listening, Maddie's boyfriend just walked right in while she was recording.
Hi, baby.
We're gonna include that in a YouTube clip,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we are. Yep, that's definitely gonna go in a clip.
Man. What I have let's talk about the shark scene. You really were blown away by the cut lip shark scene.
Oh, I was shocked. Okay. I am somebody who loves sharks. I adore them. I have one tattooed on my body. I had a dog named after them. Obsessed with them in every way, shape, and form. So what I was expecting was she's gonna go out on this boat and she's gonna get railed while the sharks are swimming around. And I just was like, fuck yeah, that's badass. I want that at some point in my life. And then
we did get turned. That,
but yeah. And then it turned, and did he hit her? He did something to her, or no, he bit her lip. Yeah, and she starts bleeding, and so she's down in the water, and he's just going to town, and the shark is coming from deep down. And she gets pulled up at the last second and then just flung to the side, discarded like nothing. And I don't know, that was I really wanted to pick up the book and just throw it away at that point in time. That one made me a little angry. When it started, I was all excited for it, and then by the time it ended, I was pissed.
Yeah, it starts out and again, CNC is not really my thing. And when it started and I was like, oh. There was my reactions all throughout reading that scene, and then I finished that scene and I was like, the fuck. And then we just go straight into the boat sinking.
Yeah, like immediately.
Yeah, there was no reprieve from she just got raped to, oh great, now they're in a thunderstorm and the boat's gone. And now they're stranded on this island.
And he goes from, which he does this the entire fucking book, but he goes from hating her, raping her over the side of the boat with freaking sharks, to 2 seconds later pulling her up and holding her to his chest as the boat is being flipped. And I don't know. I got to a point where towards the very end of the book, where I was like, okay, I am done with your fucking mood towards her. Like, we're done with this. It's been a month. Stop it.
Right. And then we touched base on this one too, where we were like, we could not believe that she trusted Sylvester.
Yeah.
The old dude on the island. That's how I refer to him in my head literally the whole time. This old fuck on the island.
That's what I kept saying. I was sitting out there last night and I was like, he's fucking old, just push him off the fucking cliff or something. And Alex is like, he's in here, he's like, what the hell are you talking about? I was like, just the old man in my book.
I was just like, this girl who's been through so much, like Sawyer had been through so much shit, and then to appear on this island and be like, this creepy old man who lives out here alone, retired years ago, and
Yeah.
still lives out here. Yeah, he's gonna be the person that I trust randomly.
Right. It was bizarre to me, especially like, I found it odd that, and this was something we kind of touched on too, where she didn't allow, because of that, she didn't allow Enzo to kind of look into him a little bit more. She didn't allow him to investigate, and I wish that she would have. I feel like they would have come across the cellar a lot sooner, and
Or
I don't
even the
know.
beacon.
Yeah, the beacon, or the radio, the batteries being removed from the radio, that was a big thing. Like,
I was like, what lighthouse has this tiny ass handheld radio that fits in a pocket? Like, that's
yeah,
not the only radio on this damn place. There's no
no,
way.
no,
And the fact that she wasn't immediately more suspicious when Sylvester was like, "No, you have to be in your bed by 9," and then locked in the
yeah,
room.
and then locked the door. And the one thing that really tipped me off was how she's smart, but she allows herself to continue believing that it's this ghost because she trusts this old man, even after they physically see her on the beach in the water. And I think it's so weird because we go from them talking to Sylvester up in their room after she's banging on the door to it flipping to Enzo's chapter, and we don't talk about that anymore. It's just that is the end of that conversation, and she's really not brought up again until the very end of the book. Besides the chains.
Yeah, hearing the chains. And that's the other thing, is like they brush it off as ghost, and she just takes that at face value.
Yeah, like,
I
what
was
the
like,
fuck?
I was like, there's no way. I would never take, like, and I don't really believe in the paranormal all that much, but if I were, I would not be like, yep, it's gotta be ghosts. That makes sense. That
No.
tracks.
Especially not if I had, and these two things weren't even related, but if I had found a cave that went down and down and down and down, I definitely would have thought, okay, something else is fishy going on here.
Yeah. The whole thing was weird to me, though. And the fact that Enzo just let her and was like, does not give me the character type to be like, oh, she said not to look into it, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, no. And I mean, we kind of see that because we learn at the end of the book that he has been removing the nails from the window the entire time. But beyond that, he didn't really do all that much investigating beyond the closet. And even then, all he ended up doing was screwing her in the closet.
There was a lot of screwing, to be fair.
A lot.
Almost every chapter.
It was almost every page, I felt like.
And this is coming from two people who love a good romance book, and we don't mind, and we were both like, that was a lot of sex. That was a lot.
It was a lot. It just kind of got to the point towards the end of the book, especially by the time that they were breaking the table. I was really like, are we still having sex right now, really? With everything that's going on, let's just pull down our swimsuits and go to town. It didn't make sense to me. Yeah.
That whole, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, and I'm confused. I did read this book, finish it at 2:30 in the morning. I very well could be wrong about this particular scene, but I'm like 75% sure that the old dude was missing at that point. They had locked him in the cellar, and then they had come back from something, and the cellar door had been open, and so they knew he wasn't in there anymore, and then they went upstairs, showered, when they looked for stuff, they came back down to make food, and he fucked her on the table, breaking the table, and I'm like, you're doing this? And the whole time I was reading this, I was like, watch, the old fuck is gonna come out and be like, that was a nice fuck, or some shit like that. Like,
the other part that really pissed me off was right before that when they had boarded up all the windows and doors and locked themselves in their room, and it's their door is being like somebody's trying to break down that door, and
Right.
he doesn't open it, or they don't go out the window. Like they just sit there and continuously let that happen all night long. I would not do that. There's no way. I'd be opening the door, I'd be going out the window, I'd be figuring out what the fuck is knocking on my door all night long.
And I could understand being like that first initial fear, like holding you
Yeah,
back for like the first even an hour. I'd give you even an hour
right.
for that, and then the adrenaline to wear off, and you'd be like, "No, I'm done. Listen, you're
Yeah,
interrupting my fucking sleep. I'm figuring out what the
exactly.
fuck you are."
Yes. So I found that kind of weird. I don't know. I I did
I
enjoy the book a lot once we got to the ending, honestly, when
so
shit was
did
actually
I.
happening. Like,
Once the book was resolved, I was like, "Yeah, that was a good book." But now that I'm going back and like reflecting on it, I'm like, "Well, there was a lot of shit in this book I didn't like, but it was a good book." I'm a mood reader. At the end of the book, I was happy,
mhm.
so it was a good
Yeah, it was a good book. I will agree with that.
book.
I don't know. Let's talk about Casey's
Oh, I know
face
where you're going. This actually isn't where we were going, but it will lead up to it.
and her
Casey,
feeding tube.
so as a mom with a kid with a feeding tube, there, there, he had to have. Oh, this is going to be a little graphic. Warning to listeners: this will be a little graphic. My son has a G tube, which
Mhm.
is or did. He doesn't now. He has hands. He So in order to do that, well, it was obviously an at-home job. They didn't have any medical stuff. We had to have
Right.
put something there to keep it open.
Mhm.
And that's what got me the whole time. I was like, what the fuck did you put in the hole in her stomach? Because stomas into the stomach can close up really fast. Like Ollie had his for a year,
Uh-huh.
and now he ripped the button out. TMI, he ripped his button out, and we were told it would close up on its own a whole year later. So he had to have put something in there to keep it open because, like, within 30 minutes, the stomach will heal itself, which is wild. Human bodies are
That is
crazy.
crazy.
And so, in order for that to work, and maybe the author doesn't know that, which is fine, but that's what my brain is. I was like, what fucking thing did he shove into her to keep that tube open so he could feed her?
That's fair. I was just thinking how she survived it because I don't know,
That too.
you're out in the middle of the nowhere with an old man who probably doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and
For
he
sure
just
not.
cuts some hole into your stomach and puts a tube in there for you and starts feeding you that way. And then God, her mouth, the way that they were describing her face, I could not. Oh, it just
That
I
was
don't
that
know.
was That was gruesome. That was bad.
Yeah.
Um, the and I was like, why sew her face shut when you can rip out
hmm
her tongue? And that's awful. That's
I
awful
thought,
to
but
say.
I thought the same thing. And then he says that they
And
did that.
yeah, that he did that first, and she continued to try to make noise when people would come
hmm
and visit the island. So then he sewed her mouth shut, and I was like, oh, I mean that makes sense, but oh.
And I don't. It's sad to think that she survived all of that, only to be shot and killed in the end. I mean,
Yeah.
for even for a human who the human body has an amazing healing ability, it is still crazy to me that she was alive at all.
Oh, for sure. And it makes me wonder. I know they talked about Trinity killing herself,
hmm
which is what started the whole thing with the old man going wild. But it makes me wonder if she didn't kill herself or,
I wonder the same thing, honestly.
because he went to extreme length.
Right. Well, and he killed his wife.
Mhm.
So who's to say that he didn't kill the other daughter? I mean, maybe she tried to leave and then he hung her. Or maybe she tried to leave and then he got mad, and I don't know. I felt really that whole thing really bothered me, and then in the end when she was in Zayden, or I almost called him Zayden. Oh my god.
James Ryerson on the brain.
Always. Enzo, when she was dying in Enzo's arms, and he talks about how her face is ripping at the corners, and I don't know how they describe just the string just hanging there. I felt so bad for her.
Right.
Like, and her inability to decide if she wanted to still love her father or hate him and help him, and
Right. She kept going back and forth and like trying
mm-hmm.
to save herself and save them and then save her father. She couldn't
Yeah.
decide. Which ultimately I think is why she took the bullet for Enzo.
Yeah. I think so too, honestly.
But yeah, the whole thing was really gruesome. A really gruesome aspect to a book that, I mean, up until that point hadn't been that gruesome. I
Right.
mean, it had explicit scenes, but nothing
Mm-hmm.
nothing like that.
No, and they had talked about, I mean, even when she talks about being assaulted by her brother, she does not go into detail about what he did to her ever.
No.
I mean, so the most in-depth thing that we hear is about when she murdered him, I feel like.
Right.
And so I found that to be a little bit interesting. I will say she did bother me right there at the end of the book, because what dumbass walks down into a room and doesn't see their boyfriend and goes, "Where is he?" Obviously, he's under the floor. Where the hell else is he gonna be?
Yeah, the cellar exists, woman. Get it together.
Yeah.
They made her like so stupid and
Yeah.
so smart at the same time.
It's bizarre. I feel like they were really tracking with the whole she's blonde thing, she's supposed to be this ditzy, unintelligent little thing who's actually very smart, but
yeah. So I mean, which begs the question: was she really intelligent, or was she just really good at screwing men and stealing their wallets?
Mm-hmm. But I mean, yeah, it doesn't take a lot of talent to have sex with somebody and steal their wallet before you leave. At least I wouldn't imagine. It's not like, "Biscuit, psst, please stop before you knock all of that over in the middle of this."
That's so
But
funny. Yeah, and I like how we're like, it's a good book. It's a book. We've trashed this book for the
we
last
have
20 minutes. But we're like, but it's a good book. You should read it. You should read it. And like,
I mean, you should.
It's well written. You should. It's well written.
I will say, I did find it interesting too that, we kind of hear about, I don't remember what his name is, Gavin or something like that. The Kev's friend, the police friend that is still emailing her every now and again. It's interesting that we never see him, in my opinion, and he's never at any point brought in, and he never mentions the other women that Kev's apparently assaulted, which is bizarre to me.
I think that whole thing is just weird because why would he be emailing her? Because as soon as she logs into that email, they know where she is. So for somebody who's been from are we back?
I think so.
For somebody who's been running from the law for the last 6 years, she opens up her email? Like, what?
Yeah. I still have an email from before. Like, it's odd to me. I also found it odd that she was ballsy enough to even go to an airport. I mean, fake ID or not, that's ballsy.
Yeah, it is. And real random to see your significant other's cousin, husband, whatever it was.
Yeah. I don't know.
And then I have to bring it up at near the end of our episode here, just because this whole book was based on this one trope, pretty much. So I need to get your opinion. Do you love or hate the one bed trope? Listeners, I want you to vote down below whether you like or comment, love or hate the one bed trope, because that's where this whole freaking thing was.
True. I don't know. I'm kind of mixed. I feel like I don't know. It was a good book. I liked the book. All in all, it was good. I just personally wish there was slightly less sex. Or maybe not even that. I shouldn't say that. Yeah, it really is. But what I couldn't get on board with, I think what really was bothering me was his hot and coldness. Because if a man, even if I stole your motherfucking identity, I understand that that's screwed up. I understand that I absolutely should not have done that. Don't you dare stand there and tell me that I'm weak and tell me, like, degrade me for weeks on end. I would come unhinged. I wouldn't be able to handle that. And that really bothered me, especially at the end when he did it again, when he found the damn credit card in her pocket. It was like, dude, the fuck did you
Haven't
think?
we
You knew
moved
she
on from
had
this?
it. Yeah. Like, you found the physical card? Whoop-de fucking do. You're stuck on the middle of an island in the middle of the ocean somewhere. She's
And
out
she
there
hid it
spending
from you because
so
she was
much money.
afraid of your reaction.
Yeah, like that says something. I don't know. He's so hot and cold with how sometimes it's hard to understand if he like actually wanted to physically hurt her or if he just wanted to hurt her in a pleasureful way.
Yeah. Yeah. He couldn't decide whether or not he actually liked her or not until the very end of the book, which was really fucking annoying. But the book is great.
I also really would like to know what parent hears their child say that their brother raped them and doesn't believe them. Like, what child knows what the fuck rape is? In my opinion, that's how I would have thought about it. It depend if they were young enough, at least. Like, what? Honey, can you please stop?
I think as a parent, I think I would have been a little bit more concerned because they were twins. Like that's just weird.
It's odd.
Like,
I agree.
yeah, I definitely as a parent, that's something that they should have taken seriously, whether that there was favoritism or not. But for some reason, they thought she was just attention seeking. And of all of the ways to be attention seeking, that's a weird one.
A very weird one.
My twin brother is raping me, but I'm just seeking attention.
Yeah, no, while also trying to blow up his entire life.
Yeah.
Like, and it bothers me that the police, I mean, that happens a lot in our day and age. There's a lot of men and women, I should say, who don't get believed when they report acts of sexual assault or harassment or rape or whatever it is. And it's unfortunate. And it really bothers me that the police don't believe her and that it doesn't go on record somewhere and this man is allowed to become a police officer afterwards. Because what the F?
Yeah.
No, hey, psst, do not do that to my chair.
And like that level of corruption, which is definitely a thing. I mean, look at the state of our world right now. Can't tell me corruption doesn't exist, but all the way to the top. But it's just hard to read about in that context because that would be something that wouldn't get talked about. We hear about police corruption. We hear about racial profiling, that kind of corruption. And while it is god awful, and I don't condone it in any way, shape, or form, the type of police corruption that's talked about in this book is one of those ones that I think would slip by a lot quieter.
Oh yeah, I mean it does already, and it's sad. Yeah. I do enjoy how the book mentions that, and this just kind of still goes along with things that are happening right now, but the book kind of bags on America a little bit, and I
So do
enjoyed
I.
that aspect of it. Honestly, I really did. I agreed with it because it's true. Had she have let them know who she actually was, she would have been extradited back to the United States and she would have been tried in court. She would not have been let off, even though she was raped for God knows how many years.
Yeah. Yeah. And even though we have like battered women syndrome and
Mm-hmm.
lesser sentences, it's still a sentence no matter what.
Yep.
And one thing the US needs to focus on, I think, a lot more is rehabilitation rather than
Yeah.
locking somebody up. Prison isn't
Mm-hmm.
the way to fix everything, and
No,
especially in a situation of consistent abuse over time.
I agree. I am also curious why Sylvester chose to kill as many people as he did.
Yeah, because they talk about there being a lot of graves. So
Yeah. I'm
it's
curious if
probably
he tried to convince all of them to stay at one point and they all turned him down, or if some of them really actually were the prisoners and he ended up just murdering them.
right. I'm not entirely sure on that one. I think it's sorry.
Oh, you're
I
fine.
think it's just kind of crazy, like how many shipwrecks occur
Hmm.
i- off the coast of Australia that you could even have a situation like that where there's a serial killer on an isle that if they choose not to stay, he kills them. Where there are
Right.
more people buried somewhere else, like a cellar's only so big.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious, I wonder if he knew about the cave, because my assumption would be like he talks about a time before he had his leg cut off. So, they probably explored that island. You would think that Trinity probably explored that island if she was 16 years old around there when she died. There's no way that that wasn't out there exploring that island. Same with Casey. I mean, so I wonder if there's more. I feel like there was probably more, or in her mind, maybe there was more that she wanted to add to that second level of the cave that we didn't get to see much of because she falls and hits her head. I wonder if there's more down there too. Well, or if she wanted to imply that there's more down there than what we are being shown.
Yeah, and I know it mentions that Sylvester knew about the cave because he talks about how
Did he?
his he talks about how his girls used to go there. He make briefly mentions like
Okay.
she's out in that cave that she likes to go to, and it's like that weird chapter that's from Sylvester's point of view. It's like the only chapter
Yeah.
that's from his point of view.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. No.
yeah, I don't know. The book was really good. It was definitely like I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not getting a star for the amount of sex that there was because it could
Yeah.
have used less.
I think I'm right there with you. I really enjoyed. I thought it was really cool to see a character with the background that Enzo has. I mean, we don't see, and maybe that's just me as a shark lover, but we don't see that kind of background. They're always like a lawyer or a con man or a mob guy. Like, it's always something like that. Now he's a motherfucker shark researcher and he owns his own center in the middle of the ocean, just like Jason Statham. And I love that man. So I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars.
I did like that aspect. I thought that was fun.
I thought it was really cool.
Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I don't think so. I'm looking at my notes. I don't think so. I think that's kind of all that I want. Oh, I did really like Troy. I know we didn't get to see much of him, but I liked his wittiness a lot. That was
Same.
something that I appreciated that they added, because with everything, all the broodiness and all the sex and all that going on, his little comments I liked. But I think the spice level of this book, I'd probably give it 5 peppers on this one, 5 chili peppers. It is definitely on the spicier side. So not one that I recommend trying to
think
read
I
in
did.
public.
I purposefully made sure I wasn't reading this one at work.
Yeah, I did read it at work, just on lunch, but I had to keep my back turned, so.
That's funny. All of our listeners out there, our next book is going to be Feathers So Vicious from the Court of Ravens duology. It is another dark fantasy romance novel for episode 4. Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. I can't believe we're about to be 4 episodes into this already.
I know. And if you want to suggest a book, we have a website, naughtynarrativespodcast.com, where you can go in, you can sign up for our newsletter, you can submit a book to us. You can also check out the websites of all the current authors that we have that we're reading with. So
Hell yeah. I'm so excited for them to see it too. It looks so good. Kyla finished it up yesterday and it looks amazing.
Thank you. I'm not a pro by any means, but I do like messing around with it. Now I gotta call GoDaddy and fight him, but
It wouldn't be us if we didn't have to deal with something like that. So
facts. That is true. It wouldn't be us. Anyway, we love you all, and we are so excited to.
all right, book babes, thank you for tuning into this week's episode. We were super happy to have you guys listening in. We will see you next week for episode 4.